As per you, what are some of the do's and don'ts to networking? Let's start with the basic ground up.
If there's someone that you really want to get to know better, ask them to have a... You'll be amazed how many people say yes.
So networking is not just about what you can gain, but it's about how you can help others. So now let me tell you what you can give. So number one thing you can give is,
Dear Sean. Well, that's not my name. And I'm like, that kind of makes me upset that you don't even know who you're talking to.
Connecting with professionals in different industries gives you this access to the hidden job market.
You can't just randomly write to somebody and say, hey, I need the job. Can you send my resume to HR? Now, there are people who genuinely don't like people, or at least they like to be reserved. How do they approach networking without making it a nightmare for themselves?
Yeah. Well, first
Let's break down the concept of networking. Help me understand that in today's day and age, a lot of people still don't understand why is networking important for all of us and how do we approach networking?
So networking exposes you to different industries and roles that you might not have considered, right? Did you know that people could be hired as remote community builders for a living, right? What I was doing up until recently. I still consult and do fractional work on that. But did you know that there's a role that's literally called a community builder? And there's a lot of people getting into it now that are like, I wish I knew about this a long time ago, So, okay, so that's a first. There's obviously access to internships and job opportunities because you've met the right people. So a lot of jobs are not advertised. And we could have a whole conversation about ghost jobs and this big bad trend that's happening. But connecting with professionals in different industries gives you this access to the hidden job market, right? And if you just Google hidden job market, you'll find everything that I'm talking about there. And then it gives you mentorship and guidance, right? Learn from people who have already been through what you're about to face and avoid kind of those common mistakes. And then, of course, peer support, right? There are so many amazing groups and communities online, and entrepreneurship can be isolating. So connect with other founders. It provides you with, emotional support and practical advice. I'm part of a community for speakers in Canada. And in the first few weeks of being part of that community, I already saw immense value because there are people who have done the things you're trying to do, who have the answers, or who just understand what you're going through because they are in the same, weird career that you are.
Solid gold dust, what you've just shared with me. Networking for introverts. Now, there are people who genuinely don't like people, or at least they like to be reserved. And how do they approach networking successfully? How do they, what is it that they can do to get to the right side of audience without making it a nightmare for themselves?
Yeah. Well, first it's one step at a time. Okay, so let's picture an in-person event before we go online because I think it's easier to envision it. So in person, just go to the event, right? Go. That's day one, step one. Just sign up and go. The online version is join the online chat group, community space, or virtual event too. Sign up and go, right? Okay. Day one, become comfortable with that. Then really try and comment on something. It shouldn't be that hard. When they ask in the virtual chat to put in your name, put in your name. It's not, you're behind a screen. It's very safe. Just do it, right? Put in your name and where you're from or whatever they're asking you for. Then try and go a step further, right? So that might be the first event. That's all you have in you. You're like, I did it. I went Margot. I put my name in. I saw some other cool names. Maybe follow those people on social media, some of the cool names, the people really active that you resonate with, right? Add them to your LinkedIn or your wherever they really are that they hang out. Maybe there's a community space, right? Slack or Discord or wherever that community hangs out. Add those people. When you add them, now you have a really easy way to make a bridge there, right? Because you can say, hey, Chirag, I saw you in this event I was in the other day. Seems like we're both interested in connection and community building. I just wanted to connect here so we can continue the conversation. Easy. Right? Easy. You have that connection. Nice. You are both at the same event. You have that similarity, right? So don't be afraid of that. That's a really first step. Okay. So that's it. Then go to that phase we were talking about of commenting on other people's content, right? So you still don't need to make a big splash. You don't need to put yourself on display. At that event we were talking about in person, you don't need to be the one who goes up on stage with the open mic portion and says something, right, to everybody. That's actually, right. I actually don't recommend that, right? Because I'm not telling you to try and be an influencer. I'm telling you to make meaningful connections. So when you go to that event, my tip to you is try only to have one or two really good conversations where you feel by the end of it totally comfortable adding them on social media, connecting with them, asking for a phone number or a follow-up coffee another day because all you did was care deeply about those one or two people. you put the pressure on yourself often. So try and take that off. Like day one, like I said, just go and be there, right? Participate, tell somebody your name. The next time, try and have one or two really meaningful conversations, and you could do that forever. You never have to change that tactic because that's how you actually make really strong, meaningful connections. And eventually you'll get like a little more comfortable, and those people will introduce you to other people, and you'll grow like a real network. I totally think, like we said earlier, better to have those 10 really deep ones than 1,000 meaningless ones where you couldn't tell me two things about the person. Right? But then, yeah, comment on other people's posts. And really, like, this is all the beauty of online networking because it's actually a lot easier to get started online and get noticed. You don't need to do that big gesture and take the mic, the online version. You don't need to have some big, like, energy consuming discussion. But you can like start to get to know people by simply like getting into their circle, right? By like commenting on their stuff, small wins, like kind of thinking, right? Just join the group, listen, engage at your own pace, and then leverage like one-on-one relationships. So if there's someone that you really want to get to know better, ask them to have a virtual coffee chat. I do this all the time. People do it to me. It's a great tactic. So there's someone you kind of are commenting on their stuff. You're seeing more and more of each other online. You really want to like just kind of get to know them better, more deeply, have a real human, face-to-face or human relationship. But they might live in a different city or country or whatever. So just invite them to a virtual coffee chat. Hey, Chirag, we're in all the same circles. I see you all the time. I think it'd be awesome if we got to know each other better. Are you open to a virtual coffee chat? Here is my booking link if you are. Ideally, you have like a Calendly or a booking tool to make it so easy. Because when you do 10 back and forth on what time you're free for coffee, now I'm going to say no because I don't have time anymore to book it, right? All of this stuff we're talking about, make it so easy for the person to respond. But that kind of like, you might be thinking, Margot, a virtual coffee chat for someone I don't know out of nowhere? Yes, do it. This whole like people want to give to each other. You'll be amazed how many people say yes. People who you think are like outside your scope. I say yes to people all the time, although because I talk about networking all the time, my calendar's getting a bit crazy. But right, like find that person who you want to get to know better, and just ask them. You'll be amazed what happens.
I think a lot of it, and if I purely talk about anxiety and nervousness, it essentially comes from lack of practice. If you've practiced your introductions of how you're going to be talking at an event, how you're going to be, what your elevator pitch is going to be, I think that will help calm the nerves in the long run because typically the more you do, the better you get. So once you've practiced and been at enough number of coffee chats, enough networking events, it just becomes natural and that anxiety tends to fade away, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when you said that have an element of giving back to the person that you're reaching out to as well, right? Now, hey, I am a new immigrant in Canada who purely is looking to get a job. What can I possibly give back to somebody who's a seasoned professional in his job and has a good career going? So what do I have to think about to be able to overcome this barrier?
There's many things you can do, and I'll give you some examples of things you can do for them. But before we get into those examples, again, I want us to think about what networking is, right? So networking, again, is not just about what you can gain, but it's about how you can help others.
Right.
Right. And what can you give others as well as receive from others. So it's a give and take. Initially, it's more about giving, right? And then if you give enough to someone, whether that is recognition, praise, resources, content, automatically they will, be, feel very connected to you. And when someone's connected to you, as human beings, we automatically start giving back, right? So now let me tell you what you can give, right? You can give many things. Number one, on LinkedIn. So let's talk about LinkedIn because that's where I recommend job seekers to network and connect. So number one thing you can give is engagement. What do I mean by engagement? I mean, engage with them, engage with their content on LinkedIn, right? Share it with your network, right? If they post something and you share it with their network, they're going to love you for that, right? Because now not only have you engaged and given them, your point of view or your thoughts on it, but now you're sharing it with your broader network, right? And let them know that, I found this to be so insightful and inspiring. I've shared it with everyone in my class or at my company or in my network. So engagement is one. Second is experience. And you might say that, okay, I don't have experience. How can I share experience? think about not experience literally. Think about experience that you have gained in your life. So all of us, whether you're a student or a CEO, you have gained experiences in your life, right? Through education and just through living life. In those experiences, you've developed some skills, right? So think about what those skills are and think about how you can help them with those skills. So I'll give you an example, right? You might be a student who recently graduated with absolutely no internships, no experience, but maybe you have an interest in marketing and you're really good with your Instagram handle and your account. And this person you're networking with, he's amazing in terms of his knowledge with the topic, but he's really now trying to get his name out there and he has no idea how to use Instagram. Right? So this is your opportunity to teach them a little bit about digital marketing. Connections is another one that you can help people with. So maybe, you don't have a specific skill set, but maybe you have connections in terms of people that you can help them with, right? So let's say they are looking for a permit. And somebody who works in the city office who can give them a permit, right? Or they need some help with the immigration and someone working, or they need someone, at the airport to help them with something. So again, there are people in your network who possibly can help this person. So connect them with those people or ask them, is there someone in my network that I can introduce you to, right? And then a couple more things. One is, resources. So if you find something that is of interest to that person, right? So let's say this person is really into AI, and you're not into AI, but this person is into AI. So now, if you want to build that relationship, set up some alerts for yourself, like articles, blog posts, YouTube videos on AI related topics, and then share it with this person. So now you've saved them time, right? Time that they may have to have researched to find these videos or these courses or these podcasts. So any resources that you feel could be helpful. And then the last thing is time. Right? Time is a very precious gift as well. So the fact that, you are giving them your time by giving them, engagement on their content, sharing your skills, willing to help them in your time is a very valuable gift as well. So that's another thing you can give back to them. The last thing I would say over here is, people feel like reaching out to people and asking for their advice is not good use of the other person's time. But again, remember that human beings inherently love to help, right? When you share ideas, when you share information, when you help someone, internally you feel really good doing that because you're helping somebody else. So these people who you're connecting with, they actually will like to spend time with you because that will make them feel good too. Right. So again, if you think about it that way, networking becomes a fun game.
People say that you are a sum of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. Correct. And they are the ones who end up influencing you. Correct. But how do I surround myself? How do I identify कि वो 5 लोग कौन है जो मेरी energy sap ना करे but मेरे को re-energize करें, मेरे को positively influence करें? Is there any barometer that you have for that?
I don't think there is a formula. I think different things work for different people. So let's talk about reach. Now, if I want to reach somebody, right, why do I want to reach them is important. What's in it for them is more important than what's in it for me, right? Now, let's say, for example, I want to reach, let's say, a large decision maker in one of the biggest conglomerates in the world. What's in it for him? Why should he talk to me and waste his time? If I don't put that across as upfront, even if I get to him, I'm wasting his time. I think that's more important, right? So if you have very clear win-win strategies saying that, look, I want you to meet me because I can do this for you and this is how it will benefit you and this is how it will also benefit me, very honestly put across, you will eventually get the guy on the table. Now, how do you use that network to reach him? If that's your question, today there are a whole lot of networks which are available, good networks, bad networks, okay, which are time wasters. So how do you build a network? I think you need to build a network of people, okay, based on the foundation of honesty. Like if I want, to build, I want to hang around with 5 guys that are meaningful to me. They should be meaningful to me overall in life, just not to achieve a a common.
Transactional nahi hona chahiye.
Absolutely. You got the word right. It shouldn't be transactional. If it's transactional, it's easy to build those networks, right? I mean, you don't need a network. You just, for that transaction, you know whom to reach out to. It's been easy for me, okay? Because I've been honest with what I want. I tell people, this is what I want out of you. This is what I can do for you. Tell me if you're in. Otherwise, it's okay. Somebody else will take it, Don't waste time on it. That's my thought.
I would start with humility, right? Because, and I say this, coming from the place of support, and I love the community, I love diversity that we have in the country, but if the person coming into the country, we has to be grounded in the sense that you're reaching out for help, be humble in the request, be polite, and be clear in the sense that, okay, here, I'm in the country, I'm a landed immigrant, I've heard about you, would you be able to, grab a coffee with me? For me, that will be always the good start, right? Not assuming that, I'll just go on LinkedIn and just click connect without any background or introduction. For me, it's like, it's being overzealous, thinking that everyone is here waiting to network. I think we all have busy lives and we're doing this because, it feeds our soul. We want to help others, but there needs to be some amount of humility in the approach and provide a bit of an introduction, explain, a little bit of who you are, why you're asking for help. Clearly, right? You're asking for guidance and coaching. Because I've seen examples where there's a little bit of sense of, okay, and not entitlement, but assumption, right? That just because I'm reaching out, I'm hitting that very easy button called connect, that I'm going to accept it, right? So I would say start with that, being humble throughout the process, because that will resonate really well with the people that you want help from. And I'm sure there will be a lot of rejections. I mean, some people are just too busy or they don't see value in networking. But I've always said this to everyone, including myself, like you put in 10 requests, even if 9 rejected, that's fine. One person is going to return that private message or direct message.
Yeah, and I firmly believe that it becomes the game of numbers at some point in time. If you're somebody who's applying for jobs or networking, you need to be lucky once. You can't just randomly write to somebody and say, hey, I need the job. Can you send my resume to HR?
And you bring up a good point, because if you are going to recommend someone, then your brand is now a factor, right? Because you're providing a recommendation. So there is this perception sometimes, and maybe that's why we have to educate people, whether it's a newcomer or a fresh graduate, that I can't just forward a resume, and because I don't think it does justice to anyone in this equation, right? Doesn't do justice to the candidate, doesn't do justice to me, because then I'm just randomly floating. It's not like a Facebook post, right? I'm just liking it and sharing it. I have to know whom I'm recommending, and then I can at least say a few words saying, hey, you may want to check out this candidate. I spoke to her about an hour. Seems like a great candidate in the marketing space, right? Now the person getting that email or that LinkedIn recommendation will find value in it. I think there's some out there that feel that, okay, hey, since you work for this organization, can you just forward my resume to HR? And I think by doing that, I don't think it's going to increase the probability of you getting screened and hired, right? But imagine if you invested times like, hey, I see that you're working for that organization. Would it be convenient for you, for us to grab a quick call or something, right? And then you can present yourself. And that individual might say, maybe it's not the right fit. Oh, you sound like a good fit. Let me provide a recommendation, right?
That is so amazing. This is really insightful. Why not have a conversation with the person who you're reaching out to for a reference, and let them know who you are? Because once they have certain context to and some sort of idea about who you are, what your experience is, you would go with more confidence and be able to recommend that person. And that just adds more credibility to the entire process.
I guess my advice would be to
make sure that you are treating networking and reaching out on LinkedIn as an example as a quality over quantity kind of approach. So, we've all gotten that dopamine hit when we've found that we've grown our follower base or connections base by a couple hundred, yeah, that's great. More people in my network. But that's really a vanity metric, and it doesn't really boil down to anything meaningful. What's meaningful is having those real true connections with other people, having actual conversations. But when we are doing reach outs, especially cold reach outs, reaching out to strangers, essentially, we want to have a very specific reason why we're reaching out to these people. We don't just want to reach out to anyone and everyone, because that's just not going to garner any results for us. And that's just not going to lead to long-term relationships. So if there's someone we've been admiring for a while, and we'd like to be connected with them, then tell them we're admiring them. Tell them why you admire them. Hey, Chirag, I really love your brand colors. Your use of yellow, like that, it really stood out to me. And I just want to see more of what you're all about. Can I connect with you? Or I'd like to connect with you. Just something as simple as that. Like we don't need to overcomplicate it. Remember that there's another person at the end of the conversation. And yeah, just be very specific and reach out to the people who you can just see yourself being connected with long term. So there's no need to just reach out to people randomly. Think of your target employers. Think of people who have gone before you, done the things that you want to do. Those are the people I can think of connecting with or prioritizing connections with.
Any tips and tricks that you could share on how to network better?
We don't want to try and network with anybody and everybody, because we can't possibly create relationships with anybody and everybody. But we want to make sure that we're networking with the folks who we can see ourselves connected to long term. Another thing is we don't want to overcomplicate networking. I see a lot of people not network because it feels weird. It feels misaligned with them, and I get that. We can always start in our own backyard. So when you think about the university that you went to, there's alumni networks. That's a baked-in network right there, a big one too. We can always consider networking with our own friends and family. We just never know who knows who. So we don't need to look too far to network, and we don't have to go to complete strangers always to network. So make it easy on yourself.
Amazing. Thank you for that. One of the things that as a newcomer that I realized that, and I was not exposed to this concept back in the day, was that you need to start having informational interviews. That's the next step after networking, right? Or networking leads to informational interviews. The question for you is that any tips and tricks on landing informational interviews?
Right.
And once we land these, how can we make a lasting impression?
Right. Okay. So informational interviews, I do see them as part of networking. And so I think the key with informational interviews, the key to approaching them and asking for them is to make sure that it's clear that you are using them as a learning opportunity. So we don't want to go into these conversations or even ask for these conversations with the pretense that you're going to ask for a job. That's just not the appropriate use of an informational interview. In fact, I don't like the term informational interview because it implies job getting, and I don't think that that's appropriate. And so I would just call it a networking meeting. And when we're messaging, asking for these networking meetings with strangers, perhaps, the importance is to be clear as to why we're reaching out to them. It would be helpful if you mentioned something about what you admired about, say, their career, their body of work, what they post on social media, what have you, and that you would love to ask them a few questions or learn from them or get their advice around achieving success, doing whatever it is specifically. And then ask them for 15 minutes of their time, whether it's phone or Zoom or whatever they choose, and just thank them, for considering you. for that. And you're not going to get yeses all the time, but you will improve your chances of getting a yes for an informational interview if you make it very clear you're just trying to learn rather than explore opportunities.